So we've got Derek in Michigan who wants to talk a little bit about the rapture coming soon. How you doing, Derek? You're on with Matt and John.
Thanks for having me, guys. How you guys doing?
Well, not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Pretty good here.
It's good to hear it. Yeah, I would just like to talk about the coming rapture. I mean, with all that's been happening in the world, it's kind of crazy that this is the only disease in history that ever shut down the entire planet. And you know how the Bible speaks of wars and rumors of wars and pestilence and all this other end time stuff. I mean, it's all coming to pass. So my question is just, I mean, what are you guys going to do when the rapture actually comes? I mean, will you guys believe that God exists then, or will you believe what the government tells you, which is probably going to be something about aliens?
Well, so first of all, I mean, you don't think that this is actually the first time that we've experienced like war and disease and everything run rampant. I mean, the Spanish flu of 1917 and 1918 was pretty prevalent across the entire world. The bubonic plague,
lasted 3 years. The world hasn't shut down, by the way.
No.
Otherwise,
no, it
John
hasn't.
and I would be here doing a show.
But I mean, that's just one example of how all of these things that seem to be coalescing together and are signs of the rapture. I mean, my point is that these things have happened all throughout time. So I'm kind of wondering, what distinguishes this particular set of events from previous events that match the exact same end times prophecies?
Yeah, I was in.
It's global. It's the whole world. It's just not like one country. You know, it's the entire
world. New Zealand's already dealt with COVID and moved on. It's not the whole world, and the whole world hasn't shut down. So if you take a look at it throughout history, on a regular basis, Christian eschatologists have been claiming that the rapture is imminent, and every time they've been wrong. Now, if it turns out they're right this time, then I will be surprised. No, I don't believe just what the government tells me. The time to believe in something is after there's evidence for it. And so the time to believe that a rapture has occurred is after there's actually evidence for it. Until then, it's just a bunch of doomsayer stuff from people who can't demonstrate the truth of anything they believe with regard to their God.
Well, you don't consider the Bible evidence?
No.
So the Bible contains claims which would count as anecdotal evidence, but it's not like the Bible is sufficient evidence to justify belief in a God or anything. Otherwise, we'd have to say the same thing for the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita and whatever other ancient holy texts people want to point to. The evidence for God has yet to be demonstrated.
Well, I've just placed my faith on the Bible. You know, I believe the Bible's true. Everything in it.
Everything in it. Everything in it. Everything in it's true. Do you think that it's okay to own people as property?
No, I don't.
Because the Bible says it's okay.
Yeah.
And you just said that you thought
back then it was. I don't know.
No. You said you thought everything in the Bible was true, and I asked you if it was okay to own people's property, and you said no, but the Bible says it is.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I think it was true back then.
So once upon a time, it was okay to own people as property and beat them? That was okay once upon a time?
Maybe back then it was a different time back then.
I realize it was a different time. I know how fucking time works. The question is, was it okay? Was it morally permissible to own people and beat them?
Not now, but back then, who knows? Until we get a time machine.
What do you mean, who knows? What do you mean, who knows?
Sure.
Let's jump in a time machine, and I'll take you back. Would you willingly be a slave in those ancient times under the rules laid out in Exodus 21 and Leviticus 25? Would you willingly be a slave under those rules?
Oh, no, if I lived back then, I wouldn't be a slave.
No, you would be. You don't get any choice in it. You're bought and sold. You're property.
Well, I don't know if it was true because I wasn't there.
You don't get to say that. You just told us you believe everything in the Bible's true, which means you now have to stand by the Tower of Babel and a global flood and trying to get every fucking animal on the planet into one big ass boat and every other ridiculous anti-science thing. The fact that Genesis gets the order of creation events wrong. You now have to stand by all of that. You have to stand by Abraham attempting to sacrifice Isaac and then stopping. You have to stand by Samson losing his strength when his hair gets cut. You have to stand by all of it because you had the audacity to suggest that everything in the Bible is true when I'll bet you don't even know what's in the Bible. Have you read it?
The only things I know about the Bible is what I was taught in church.
Yeah, so you haven't even read all of it, have you?
No, I listened to my pastor speak.
Yeah, maybe you should stop doing that. Maybe you should start investigating things for yourself. Because I used to be somebody who just listened to my pastor. I was going to be a pastor. And then what happened was I read it for myself. And I also learned about the nature of evidence and science and how we can know reasonably what is and isn't true and how the stuff in the Bible like talking snakes and donkeys isn't likely to be true, and that you should not believe that people have been resurrected from the dead until you have evidence for it, not just someone claiming it in a book. Who wrote Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John?
I know those guys didn't write it.
Yeah. And so, but do we know who did? Do we know who did?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to anybody's knowledge. Those books we have no original copies, so we don't know what the originals say. We have no idea who wrote those books. And so what we have are copies of translations of copies of an oral tradition that was handed down over a period of time. If somebody came to you and told you that they would like for you to give them 10 to 20% of your income for the rest of your life, and that they want you to live by their rules, and when you ask, why should I, they hand you a book that is copies of translation of copies of stories that are told, and you have no way of verifying who wrote them or investigating any fact within them, are you going to do it?
Well, is it going toward a good cause?
What is a good cause? If it's just going to the church, that's not. See, here's the problem. In the United States, where churches have de facto tax exempt status, churches don't have to open their books. They don't have to tell people how much money they're bringing in. They don't have to show how much money goes elsewhere. And so while some churches do operate charities, you don't know how much of your dollar gets to the people in actual need. Sometimes the overhead can be as much as 98 cents per dollar, which means only 2 cents of what you're giving is going out to the people in need. But you'll never know what the actual amount is because churches, unlike other nonprofit organizations, don't have to open their books, which is why the Mormon church can be rich as fuck and own Coca-Cola and hotels and everything else. And the Catholic Church can have magnificent works of arts clogging up a big empty freaking building and charge people to come see it instead of actually feeding the homeless. Do you know how many homeless people? Do you know that we could end poverty and homelessness throughout most of the world just by liquidating the Catholic Church, using those buildings to house people who need places to live and giving that money to support the effort?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. Granted, I don't think you're a Catholic, but so you probably don't have as much.
No, I'm born and raised Christian.
Well, Catholics are Christian?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, you would probably be on my side if I decided to say, hey, let's liquidate the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church. You'd be okay with that because you're not one of those denominations, right?
Right.
Cool. We appreciate your support.